There's something about beauty, a rule almost, that there must be ugliness, or rather imperfection, for beauty to be the most beautiful it can be. They say that beauty is perfect symmetry in a face or a model figure, but I think that's a load of garbage. I don't subscribe to that for a second. Mathematical perfection, these AI generated women on social media, that doesn't have anything to do with actual beauty. I mean, truly arresting beauty. Beauty that's entrancing, beauty that makes you go insane with disbelief. You need a little bit of filth to be beautiful. Something irregular, something macabre, mutated even. You need ugliness. A person must be reasonably human to be beautiful. Beauty must be cruel and dangerous to be divine, just like all the gods of our religions, feared, dangerous, and imperfect. Because they're in our image. We created them. We cannot imagine perfect beauty on earth because we do not consist of such perfection. That's why I think these girls on social media and these supermodels all look hot or stereotypically attractive, but they look like a bunch of anime characters or whatever. These women have lost their sex appeal. They're so beautiful that they're not beautiful anymore. You could look right past them at this point. They're so common and similar. There's nothing beneath that's luring you in. And I'm not even talking about personality anymore at this point. I just mean that they're sterile. They're too clean, too symmetrical, too poised. They just disappear. A woman who is too perfect is not optimally beautiful because, in so many words, there lacks a depth. These women today look manufactured, and that word is particularly appropriate in this conversation, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the big lips, the cat eyes, the small upturned Disney princess nose, high cheekbones, long and lean and curvaceous, that woman doesn't represent beauty's full potential. You know, I was reading a speech, I believe, by William Morris. He was one of the leaders of the arts and crafts movement in England, a movement which opposed industrialization and mass-produced goods and favored well-crafted, well-made things made by artists and craftsmen. And in this speech, which is called The Lesser Arts of Life, it was given to defend the preservation of old buildings. In this speech, he talks about how mechanization, the introduction of machines, prohibits something, whenever it's made from a machine, prohibits something from becoming a work of art due to the perfection of the material used, which is brought about by machines, as well as the speed in which an item can now be made because of that machine. So, according to William Morris, for something to be art, there must be the distinctive mark of humanity there somewhere. And I think that elegantly ties into this issue with beauty that we have now, with filters and affordable surgery and the rapid spread through social media of use of technology and of surgery and filters and all that. This widespread acceptance and desire for a certain sterile kind of beauty. Everyone is starting to look the same. Everyone can access, to a degree, this kind of beauty. Everyone is starting to look the same. Everyone looks too perfect. And models today and a lot of women social media influencers have lost the flaws which contribute to truly arresting beauty. Nature itself is beautiful and sublime because it is also imperfect. These girls, these models like Kendall Jenner and social media influencers are no different, and if we're talking about William Morris here, are no different than a wine glass that is created by being pressed into a mold from a machine that you find eventually discarded and forgotten on a Goodwill shelf somewhere. That is how regular and accessible and ubiquitous their beauty is. The beauty that these girls have, which is almost always assisted by surgery or filters, which is crazy Crazy for supermodels to be doing things like that. That kind of beauty used to be exceptionally rare, born miraculously from matter. And by virtue of this rarity, this kind of beauty can only be introduced a few times. Just like in art, you can only do the white painting one time, and all other times it loses all of its value. It cheapens with each iteration. It's the difference between a garment, a dress, let's say, that is hand embellished in an atelier in France, let's say, and the like literal line of like 10 or 20 of the same dress that are just smushed together and crowded onto a rack in H&M. Let's say you have 10 women in the world that are a certain exceptional beauty. And after that, every other iteration of those 10 perfect, beautiful women are just faded echoes of the original. And they recede and become less fascinating, less interesting, less arresting than the previous group. When I look at the thousands of faces on social media, thousands of faces of perfect women on the internet, I see that their cumulative perfection is not elegance or a kind of mastery of form, which we've talked about on this channel before. It's a vacant beauty. It's a lie. There's no promise of eternity there, and that's what beauty's supposed to do for you. There's no God and holy mystery behind this communion of perfect, desirable features. Because again, perfection is not the aim. It's not the desire here. That's not truly what we want, and that's not truly what we desire from beauty. And beauty does not rest on perfection at all. And I blame every scientist that has told people that symmetrical faces are the most beautiful, or something that, you know, we think that the person is healthier or that their genes are better because we're symmetrical. I mean, we are so far past this idea of beauty being represented by a fertile woman, a curvaceous woman, or a symmetrical body, or whatever. What we actually want from beauty, what the soul wants, is anomaly, an aberration, a dirty beauty with blemish and mutation. We want the wine glass that we buy to be the natural bluish green tint of actual glass. Glass is not just transparent. It is a color. But during the industrialization, they worked very, very hard to make glass perfectly transparent rather than keep its beautiful natural tint. We want the rim of the glass to be a little bit uneven, because glass is an incredibly difficult material to work with, and to get it perfectly even and symmetrical and standing upright. And for somebody who works with glass, an artist who works with glass, to make a glass that is convincingly perfect, that's the skill of the human craftsman. That is a product of his skill, not the easy molded effortlessness of the machine. Astonishingly perfect beauty in a human being needs to be a miracle, or it all goes to shit. I mean, because there are so many ugly genes floating around the world. There are ugly people. Naturally, it's impossible for all of us to be beautiful, like truly perfectly beautiful. So the rest of the beautiful people are oddities, are irregularities, mixtures of different ethnicities and different features. So we pump out a few perfect people a year, and the rest of us are interesting and strange looking. And that's a great thing. The paradox of these flaws in truly beautiful people are that they're not flaws at all. They are defining characteristics. The flaw of the material glass, the flaw in the industrialization, was seen as the bluish green tint, the flaw that needed to be corrected. But it's not a flaw, it's a defining characteristic of the material that we are using. And the flaws that we seek to weed out are actually ethnic markers. This is particularly the reason why fashion models used to look weird. And they still do, it's just we're more focused on the social media influencers. Kate Moss has a lazy eye. It's like what makes her unique looking. Laura Stone has a pronounced brow bone and buck teeth. She's one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. But those characteristics are not ideal to our technology associated beauty standards. We're talking bee-stung lips, Cara Delevingne's crazy eyebrows, pronounced brow bones, swan necks that are absurdly long. I mean, the fashion industry up until now literally worshipped those weird, strange flaws. They are interesting because they are strange looking, because they make you look for more than 5 seconds. They're like kind of like a puzzle. You got to really look at them and figure them out. They keep your gaze for more than 5 minutes. If you do not have the distinctions, or if you want to call them flaws, of your humanity, of your ethnicity, from the parents that you came from, or whatever it is that makes you unique, then you stop being human. And arguably, you stop being beautiful. If we are striving for machine, technology, AI, algorithm beauty, we will not just lose beauty, but we're going to lose ourselves too. We will become nothing, reduced to nothing. And sex appeal goes right with that. Our ability to be attracted to others is rooted in imperfections of our animal nature, our carnal center. If those flaws are not present, honestly, forget about getting laid. That's where we're headed. Maybe beauty is just this strictly human thing. Once you reach the upper echelons, it ceases to exist. Just like with anything. It stops being. It's nothing. It just isn't. I know I've used the word divine beauty, those two words together, but perhaps truly arresting, interesting, intriguing, beguiling beauty on Earth, it is a hint of something from beyond. I will still say that that's true. It can only exist here on Earth. That's where the pageant occurs. This great theatrical performance, only seen for but a moment in this endless stretch of time. So let's maintain the environment that it's supposed to grow in.